In the rugged mountains and fertile valleys of southeastern Europe lived a people who lingered in the margins of ancient chronicles. They were known as the Thracians, a civilization neither Greek nor Roman, neither Persian nor Scythian, but something altogether unique. They left no grand empire and no written history of their own, yet their presence echoed in the records of others. The Greeks feared and admired them. The Persians tried to subdue them. Rome eventually absorbed them. Their name appears again and again, always as shadows cast on the edges of more famous civilizations. Who were the Thracians? Were they merely tribes of fierce warriors, or a people whose culture and myths profoundly shaped Europe's early history? Their story is one of fragments, whispers, and mysteries waiting to be uncovered. The Thracians were not a single nation. Instead, they lived as hundreds of tribes spread across the Balkans, from the Carpathian Mountains to the shores of the Black Sea. Each tribe had its own chieftain, its own customs, and its own rivalries. Their strength lay in numbers. Ancient writers suggested they were one of the most populous peoples in Europe. Yet, this was also their weakness. Divided by geography, culture, and ambition, the Thracians never achieved unity. The Greek historian Herodotus once remarked that if the Thracians had ever been united under a single ruler, they could have dominated the known world. But unity never came. Instead, the Thracians remained a patchwork of tribes strong in spirit but fractured in politics. The Thracians were known above all for their ferocity in battle. Their warriors were both feared and sought after. Greeks described their sudden raids, Persians hired them as mercenaries, and later Rome would enlist them into its armies. They carried the rhomphaia, a long, curved blade capable of slicing through shields and armor. Their appearance struck terror. Fox skin caps on their heads, tattoos covering their bodies, and war cries that echoed through valleys. To the Thracians, war was not merely survival but identity. Courage in battle was the highest virtue. Death was not an end but a passage to immortality. A belief that gave their warriors fearlessness unmatched by their foes. Their enemies called them barbarians, yet their bravery was acknowledged with respect. They were wild, untamed, but also noble in their devotion to war. Despite their tribal divisions, at times the Thracians rallied under great kings. In the 5th century BC, King Teres created the Odrysian kingdom, uniting many Thracian tribes under his banner. His successors, including Spartacus and Seuthes, became powerful rulers who forged alliances with Athens and fought against Sparta. These kings sat on thrones not carved of marble, but in wooden halls fortified by earth and stone. Their wealth was displayed in gold ornaments, fine horses, and chariots, not in grand cities. Though fleeting, these kingdoms proved that the Thracians were capable of unity and influence. They were not merely raiders at the edge of civilization, they were a political force, often courted and feared by their Greek and Persian neighbors. The Thracians lived in a deeply religious world, one steeped in both hope and dread. Their most mysterious god was Zalmoxis, a deity of immortality. His followers believed that death was not the end but a transition into another realm. Some sources claim that Thracians offered sacrifices to Zalmoxis, sending messages to the afterlife by killing chosen men. Another deity was Sabazios, the sky father associated with lightning, freedom, and divine power. His cult later spread across the Mediterranean, even into Rome. The goddess Bendis, linked to the moon and the hunt, became so admired that Athens adopted her worship, blending Thracian mystery with Greek ritual. And then there was Orpheus, the mythical Thracian musician whose songs were said to charm animals, trees, and even the dead. From Thrace came not only warriors but also legends that shaped European myth. If the Thracians left little in writing, they left much in death. Across modern Bulgaria and the Balkans rise great burial mounds, some hiding chambers filled with treasures. Inside these tombs, archaeologists have found golden masks, delicate jewelry, silver drinking vessels, painted frescoes, and entire chariots buried with their owners. The wealth suggests a society far more sophisticated than the Greeks imagined. One famous find is a mask of solid gold, its hollow eyes staring eternally into the present. Such artifacts remind us that the Thracians, though lacking marble cities, commanded immense resources and artistry. The tomb paintings reveal banquets of nobles, hunts on horseback, and scenes of passage into the afterlife. They show a culture that valued both earthly joy and the mysteries of eternity. The Thracians stood at the crossroads of the ancient world. To the south were the Greeks, to the east the Persians, to the west the Romans, and to the north the Scythians. They fought as allies of Persia during Darius's campaigns, later as subjects of Alexander the Great, and eventually as adversaries of Rome. Rome found them difficult to subdue. Thracian tribes fought with ferocity, their mountain strongholds nearly impenetrable. Yet, one by one, the tribes were conquered. Even in defeat, their warriors lived on. Many Thracians became gladiators, their skill in combat legendary. The most famous was Spartacus, a Thracian slave who led the greatest revolt Rome had ever faced, an uprising that shook the empire to its core. The end of the Thracians was not sudden but gradual. Over centuries, Rome spread across their lands, building cities, roads, and fortresses. Thracian culture blended into the Roman world. Their language slowly faded. Their gods were forgotten. Their names dissolved into Latin. By the early centuries AD, the Thracians no longer existed as a distinct people. Yet their spirit lingered in legends, in myths of Orpheus, in the memory of Spartacus, in the treasures buried beneath their earth. The Thracians remain one of Europe's greatest enigmas. They were countless in number, yet left behind no empire. They were fierce in war, yet fragmented in unity. They created legends, treasures, and myths, yet allowed others to write their history. Today, their tombs still rise in lonely fields. Their gold shines under museum glass, and their memory flickers in ancient texts. The Thracians remind us that history is not only shaped by those who endured, but also by those who vanished. Their story is one of shadows, whispers, and mysteries still waiting to be fully understood. They were Europe's forgotten warriors, and though their voices are silent, their legacy continues to haunt the past.